with the young people, because I put my lot with the young people. They are the future. They have no hidden agenda. The older generation has been either co-opted by the regime or have been trying to protect their perks, and I realized from day one that if we need to change, we need to change with the young people, and that's what happened. And I was also trying to make them understand that change will come on their hand. There is nobody who is going to come on a white horse and provide them with salvation. Luckily, that was what happened. But you look at the Egyptian now, David, it's a different people. A couple of weeks ago, I looked at the Egyptian eyes. They were dead souls. I look at them now. They are full of self-confidence. They are full of pride. They are full of hope. And I don't think there is no going back. And I hope that the army will understand that once this has taken place, once people started to feel the taste of freedom, there's absolutely no going back. A major psychological factor, David, I think I should give them their due, is the Tunisians. Once the Tunisian revolution took place, the message, a very powerful psychological message, came from Tunisia to Egypt. Yes, we can. That no matter how brutal the regime, we still can overcome that if we get together as people. The power of the people finally is proven itself yet again, that no matter how awful the regime, if people get together, and I kept saying, our strength is in our number. And you look today at in Cairo, or last week, there was the whole of Egypt in the street, and there was no regime that could stop the power of the people. And that's still the same situation. Everybody is hopeful because they know they took back into their own hand their power as a legitimate authority in Egypt.
We hear more today from Bahrain, obviously, more about riots in Yemen and so on. This process of freedom is going to continue, is it?
I think so. Again, Tunisia was the pioneers. Egypt came second. I think now we see what's happening in Yemen, in Bahrain, everywhere. In Libya even today, there are protests. These are unthinkable when a few weeks ago, that these countries people will be able to organize and call for their human rights and human dignity and equality and justice.
Well, it's been an incredible delight and a privilege to talk to you at this crucial moment in history. Thank you so much.
Sir David, it is always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm always available to continue the dialogue. Thank you very much.
Headlines are calling it the Facebook revolution and the Twitter diplomacy. The Middle East's latest unrest has revived once again the debate about the power of social media. This week, US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said that the internet has become the world's town square, the public space of the 21st century. But are these revolutions all about the internet and social media? Joining me now from Washington, D.C. is media consultant and veteran journalist to boot, Geoffrey Gannam. Welcome, Geoffrey. Tell me...
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's a delight to have you with us. Tell me, do you think that these events in Tunisia, Egypt, Bahrain, we hear more about Yemen today, and so on, could the revolutions, the near revolutions and so on, could they have happened without the internet, do you think? Without social networks? Or were they an essential part of making these events happen?
Well, two-part answer to your question. Social media has revolutionized the way Arabs of all walks of life are able to communicate and participate in what was a virtual civil society that is now extended to the streets of Arab capitals across the region. To say that they are Twitter revolutions or Facebook revolutions really underestimates the core social ills at the heart of these protests. Would they have occurred without social media? Social media added to the mix amplifies and disseminates for public consumption the social ills, making them extremely difficult to ignore. That is to say, the core social ills of unemployment, of disenfranchisement, of lack of political participation. These social ills are fundamental to revolutions throughout history.
Could really skilled authority figures, governments, could they use these media themselves to fight the protesters? Or is it a pure protesters' medium?
In fact, governments who are very skilled at controlling the internet, at filtering the internet, and in many cases blocking various websites throughout the Arab world, have been able to leverage social media sites for their own particular purposes. It has been reported in Egypt, not quite clear if it occurred in Tunisia, but it wouldn't surprise any of us if it did. Whether it's occurring in Libya, in Algeria, in Yemen, in Bahrain, really remains to be seen. This is an evolving story. And it has occurred on behalf of governments to be able to use these platforms in the same way to pursue their own messaging goals and their strategic communications. So by and large, it's been a protesters' medium, but increasingly governments are catching on to the idea that they need to send their own word out and are leveraging these platforms in ways that is unfortunately, not quite as honest and truthful. I mean, people are calling it government propaganda and deceitful messaging and other forms of communications that aren't really serving the government's interests.
Well, at least people are realizing also, of course, that one of the great ways of reaching people all around the world is via Al Jazeera English. That's another vital, vital force in the world at the moment. Thank you very much indeed, Jeffrey, for being with us today.
Absolutely.
A pleasure to have you with us yet again. We'll see you soon.
It's been my pleasure.
In a moment, I'll be joined by the Mexican movie director, Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu. That's after this short break, while you can be practicing your pronunciation.
An uprising on the streets, showing no sign of relenting. Protesters united in their defiance of the regime. As demonstrations continued for a third week, President Mubarak remained unmoved. But how much longer could he ignore the demands of his people and hold on to power? In a day-by-day account, we look at the events that changed Egypt, from those that witnessed them firsthand. Fall of Mubarak, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera focused on the unpopular.
Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
We focused on the war on drugs.
This is the cocaine.
And wars on foreign soil. When countries shook and leaders fell. We focused on the old and the new.
Change has come to America.
Throughout the Americas, we focus on news and documentaries that matter to you. Al Jazeera, television that truly inspires.
In a new series of one-hour documentaries, Al Jazeera English showcases films from across the Al Jazeera network.
We are now heading in towards Palestinian waters.
Two small boats set out from Greece to challenge